¿Quién quieto? Of course.
Have you ever binge-watched a show and felt that bare sense of emptiness once you completed it? That's how Rakuen made me feel, except this was after every character's story. Video games used to be deemed addicting and destructive for children, but as more consoles, systems, and games were developed, the worldwide perspective slowly shifted to a more positive light. Week 11 classes stood out to me the most, as it was focused on the subject of mental health, which got me thinking about what games lifted my mood when I was down. The first word that came to mind was Rakuen, an RPG adventure story mode game created by Laura Shigihara. This game not only lifted my spirit, it affected how I thought, felt, and acted towards certain situations. Therefore, I will be exploring the world of Rakuen, its messages, and my interpretations of how it personally changed my mental health and outlook on life. First off, Rakuen uncovers many themes in relation to mental health, including family, friendship, love, and tragedy. It's not solely focused on one aspect, but many others that a wide range of audience can relate to, as well as various themes, Rakuen's OSTs, hidden messages, the settings, and connections to multiple characters all make this game so enjoyable, which I will discuss later on in this video. Before I dive right in and establish the connection this game has to our topic of mental health, I want to explain the basic storyline and each individual character's stories. So everything in this game takes place in the hospital, as well as another dimension where it's a hospital but just fantasy. It explores the inner lives of the hospital's patients during the time of the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami that took place in Japan, resulting in over 19,000 deaths. Searching my life for its meaning, I'm gonna do what it takes. Please note that since this is based on a story mode gameplay, it doesn't vividly tell the player each character's problem, but instead relays this through a fantasy world for the readers to interpret. Therefore, some of these observations are based on my own personal interpretation, but I highly recommend that you actually play the game yourself, as it gives the game a whole different perspective. So now let's meet our characters. This is the main character, who is a boy, and he is nameless. His story is fairly straightforward: a young, unfortunate boy who got cancer and is forced to hospitalize. However, despite his plain backstory, this character was the one that stood out to me the most, because he goes on to venture and discover other characters' backstories, trying to help them, but while at the same time avoiding the harsh reality and resentment of his own life. Now this is Yami, which is a Japanese word for darkness. It explores the concept of duality, where Yami is the manifestation of the main character's hatred and troubles that he does not voice out to the world. This was developed when he got sick and after his father died. These two sides swap from time to time, especially when the main boy is going through tough times. This is Gemma and Winston, an interracial couple where Winston's parents did not accept Gemma. In the fantasy world, she is an ill-believer, and those kinds did not mix together. Gemma is placed in a coma, with Winston beside her, filled with sorrow and regret for what had happened. This is Tony and Christina. Tony's son dies in an accident while his older sister, Christina, watches him, unable to help and too late. Tony was unable to properly deal with this incident, as Christina blames herself and believes she will never be able to face her father again. This is Sue, and she was raised in an abusive household, so she adopted a street dog named Poochie, who became her best friend. After her father gambled all their savings away, they lost their home, and Sue was forced to leave Poochie behind. Having dealt with a chronic illness as well as staying at the hospital, I was given first-hand experience on personal struggles as well as those around me who each had a different story to their name. I was always curious and wondered what was happening inside those lives around me. Although Rakuen is obviously not an accurate representation of everyone's lives, it does send a specific message, which is to recognize that sometimes being there for someone is all you can do. Saying this game moved me is an understatement. I was so emotionally attached to every character, I was basically living in their worlds. This game teaches us the simplicity of life and how we should not take it for granted. Shigehara conveys this point through the characters, making it easier for the audience to relate and makes it more enjoyable that we are able to perspect that from a bird's eye view. It surrounds the idea of closure, knowing there is no cure to some problems, but rather it's the matter of demonstrating empathy and the ways of dealing with pain and tragedy. I particularly enjoy the game, being also realistic in the way of not only implementing history events but exploring the idea of losing faith, where the main boy tries so hard to help as many people as he can but gradually loses his belief, with his side of Yami eventually taking over. The teachings of this game tells us that not everything has a happy ending, regardless of age or who you are. Strength is about accepting the failures you make. It reminds us that we are humans, we make mistakes, and as the story prevails, we start to fail and learn that we cannot always help people, but we can be there for them. This game also displayed so many different forms of symbols, and my favorite part about this is that our interpretations once again will always vary, hence this is my own, Rakuen. It is a fantasy book read each night by the mother to help him escape the stress of hospitalization and dream about living in a different world where he can be a hero and not worry about his cancer. The paper hat is a symbol of hope to cover the loss of hair due to chemotherapy. It is described to be hero armor, wearing it for protection, in which he eventually passes to his mom at the end of the game when it's his turn to depart, in hopes that she is protected in the world. The marbles that Sue collects. She uses her imagination to visualize different worlds she would be in, such as a world of forts and toys, trains and fun, and making snow angels. The nameless main characters. It is to emphasize the universal nature of life and death and everything in between, how these tragic events can happen to anyone, anywhere in the world and at any point in life, said by the developer Shigehara herself. The gameplay and features overall is minimalistic, designed intentionally to allow readers to concentrate more on the given stories. Despite me emphasizing on the stories of each character, there are also mini games incorporated such as chess games, draining water, serving tea flavors, and many more to engage players in the game, adding elements of entertainment. Lastly, the original soundtracks. The developers' construction of each song describe the tragedy of each situation, making it more memorable for the players. If you're interested, I will link down the OST tracks down in the description box, but for now I will focus on the one song that really captured me, as well as my favorite scene that I believe fits into it.
Close your eyes, it is time for you to tell the world good night. It might be dark inside, but there are still stars shining in the sky. Close your eyes, I am here, and everything will be alright. I am right here by your side as we go walking
Overall, Rakuen is a bittersweet, emotional game, and truly lifted up my spirits when I was in a dark time alone. What I appreciate most about this game is that it incorporates various themes that reflect our yearning and experiences, such as events including the earthquake and meltdown, reminding the survivors that they are acknowledged and not alone. It also reminded me to open my eyes and embrace those around me, because these memories do not always last.